I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the most controversial figures in professional wrestling ever, as Vince Russo. Vince Russo started off as a magazine writer for the WWE, and he quickly transitioned to head booker in '97. And the reason why he transitioned to head booker in '97 was because ratings at that time, I spoke before about this, which I called it the dark period. And it was the dark period in WWE. It was the period that um, between 1993 and 1996, early '97. As y'all know, WWE was on a roll in the 1980s off the success of WrestleMania, the first WrestleMania, and then from there, even though WrestleMania 2 wasn't that good, and WrestleMania 3 was spectacular. People still talk about it to this day. Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. Um, the preceding WrestleManias was a standard bearer in pay per view. Other companies like Jim Crockett Promotions, AWA, and so forth, they followed this model of um, of business, you know, and basically WWE, like I said, was on a roll until 1992, around 91, 92. Hulk Hogan, they started to get tired of his personality, his persona was no longer that viable. They couldn't even sell out the building for WrestleMania 7. That's why they changed locations. Nowadays, they'll try to sell you some bullshit story that the reason was because um, terrorist bomb threats, because they were doing the Sergeant Slaughter Iraqi storyline. That's bullshit. The reason why they couldn't go to the Los Angeles Coliseum was because they couldn't sell it out, because business was down. And then the steroid scandal happened, and Hulk Hogan went on live TV, and he basically lied on the Arsenio Hall show that he had used steroids. And then from there, they tried a lot of things. They tried bringing Ultimate Warrior back in '92. It just didn't work. And then in '93, the shit really hit the fan because Vince McMahon went to trial for steroid use. And much like professional baseball, professional wrestling took a hit in '93. They just didn't have the stars. They started to push these younger stars like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, but fans just weren't really used to those guys yet. For example, they had Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage in the main event at SummerSlam '92, and then the next pay-per-view Survivor Series, they have Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. You just can't, wean fans off these muscle-bound guys that fast. You know what I mean? You need a transition period. They didn't have that. So from there, in 1995, WCW gets itself established, by bringing over Hogan, Savage, all these guys, and they start Nitro, and they start really whooping WWE's ass. Because again, these stars, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, although great wrestlers, they didn't really capture the fans' imaginations in the way that Macho Man Hogan did. So by '97, things had gotten really bad, and they did this show in Germany. Excuse me, that featured Owen Hart versus the British Bulldog. And on this show, the show was so terrible that it had the lowest rating of all time. So the magazine writer who was writing WWF Magazine and Raw Magazine, which was a more innovative, more adult-oriented product, decided he was going to start writing the TV shows, and that was Vince Russo. And from there, from that point on in '97 to 1999, a 2 year run, WWE created some of the most memorable stars of the late '90s: Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mankind, The Rock, Sable, China, and so forth. Some of the people that I've talked about before on my channel. And but in 1999, WCW came knocking. Vince Russo had been burnt out, and he wasn't really much like a lot of wrestlers and a lot of employees in WWE. He just really wasn't. Um, he just really wasn't interested in um, in the schedule that Vince McMahon wanted for him. So him and his partner Ed Ferrara decided to pack it up and go to WCW. But his writing style really didn't work in the corporate environment that was WCW at the time. WCW was owned by Ted Turner and followed a different standard than uh, than WWE. So it was a failure. It was an epic fail, and eventually WCW went out of business. He tried to go back to the WWE in 2002, but they really wasn't feeling him anymore because of the way they left. And a lot of people, such as JBL and Triple H, gave him a hard time. So he left again, and he went to work for years for his friend Jeff Jarrett in TNA, on and off. But he's infamous among wrestling fans because he's known as being the guy who put WCW out of business. Now that's unfair because one of the main reasons they even called him over there to replace Eric Bischoff was because WCW's ratings were lagging in late 1998 into 1999. So they needed something to turn it around, and he just wasn't the guy because he didn't. Again, his style, he was handicapped by standards and practices and stuff, and WWE was just too far ahead at that point. If you read the book Death of WCW, he's on the cover along with Bischoff, along with Hogan, and those guys are blamed for the death of WCW. Like I said, I don't think he's the reason. I just think Vince McMahon was so creative, and so he had all the right guys. He had Jim Ross, he had Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, China, Sable, all these characters that people just grew to know and love, just like in the 80s. And, it caught on, and WCW just didn't have that because they never put their time and effort into creating stars like that. They always relied on, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man and them guys. So that's my thoughts on Russo. I think he should be respected and honored for his contributions, but ultimately, he's a really divisive figure in the game. Peace.